The Bible isn't just a book of random stories. It's 66 different books that come together to tell one story. An incredible one. About God's love for us. And now for an amazing story. Inspired by the book of James, chapter 1. Verse 17.
The Bible is filled with words of wisdom that encourage us to love God, love others, love life. Sometimes Jesus used stories to help people understand how God's truth played out in their lives, and that's what stories can do for you. In the book of James, Jesus' brother writes, "Every good and perfect gift is from God." Let's see how this truth might play out in someone's life today. Christopher Roberts had a pretty good bike. Of course, when his parents gave it to him for his 9th birthday, it seemed like a really amazing bike, but that was 2 years ago. And now Christopher knew that his life would never be complete unless he could get
a dynamite shadow racer.
Christopher begged his parents to buy him the new bike. His mom looked up from weeding the flower bed and said,
"You have a perfectly good bike already."
His dad picked another orange off the orange tree and put it into a basket.
If you want a new bike, you'll need to earn the money yourself.
Christopher crossed his arms and frowned at his mom and his dad and the whole backyard. But when he glowered at the orange tree, a brilliant idea popped into his head.
I'll open up an orange juice stand.
Christopher immediately put his plan into action. His mom helped him build a stand out of old wooden pallets.
It should be bigger.
We've got red paint or green.
But I want it to be orange.
Dad showed Christopher how to juice oranges by hand.
Oh, this is so much work.
This is the juicer your grandmother used when she lived in this house.
Why can't we just get an automatic one?
Right after breakfast the next morning, Christopher set up his stand on the tiny patch of grass in between his front porch and the sidewalk.
Phew, it is too hot.
As Christopher slid on a pair of sunglasses, he was startled by a creaky voice.
Perfect day for selling citrus, my boy.
Christopher glanced back to see their new neighbor rocking on her small porch just a few yards away. Mrs. Wherewithal's flyaway white hair and oversized glasses made her look like a surprised kitten.
Yeah, well, you're sitting in the shade, Mrs. Wherewithal. It's not as hot.
True, my boy, that's true.
Sunny, hot weather did bring out customers,
$1 a cup, come and get it.
but a lot of people were just too busy to stop or didn't carry cash.
Do you take credit?
Near lunchtime, Christopher spotted Jade, who owned a dog walking service.
Hey, Wiggles!
Christopher stepped around to scratch his favorite dog's ears.
Oh, and who's this guy?
Rusty. He's a great name.
He's like a horse.
Christopher had a fantastic few minutes playing with the dogs until he remembered.
Oh, hey, you want to buy some orange juice?
Sorry, Chris. Didn't bring any money.
Oh,
When lunchtime finally rolled around, Christopher counted his income.
16, 17. Oh,
Got another cup in there?
Christopher glanced up to see Mrs. Wherewithal hovering by the stand.
yeah, nothing but pulp left. And I didn't sell near enough to buy a dynamite shadow racer. This day's been a total waste.
Ah, I see.
Mrs. Wherewithal took off her enormous glasses and held them out to Christopher.
I see. But do you?
See what?
The frames of Mrs. Wherewithal's glasses were wide and purple with yellow polka dots. A line of words weaved their way around the dots.
Goodness goggles. Every good and perfect gift is from God.
Put them on.
But I don't need it.
They might just reframe your day.
Christopher felt silly, but it didn't look like Miss Wherewithal was going anywhere anytime soon. So he put on the glasses.
Look back over your day.
Suddenly, moments seemed to pop into Christopher's mind. Mom helping him build his juice stand.
Wow. She worked really hard. And the stand does look pretty great.
Dad showing him the juicer that Grandma used to use when she was a little girl.
How cool is that?
All the people who stopped for orange juice that morning or just smiled and waved.
Yeah, we've got some great neighbors.
Jade letting him play with the dogs.
Almost as good as having my own puppy.
At last, Christopher removed the glasses. He blinked and handed them back to Mrs. Wherewithal.
The goodness goggles help you see any better?
Yeah. Actually, I think they did.
Mrs. Wherewithal slid the glasses back onto her own face and peered at the nearly empty pitcher of juice.
The pulp is my favorite part.
Then you can have it all. On the house.
Christopher poured the last cup of pulpy juice for Mrs. Wherewithal. He may not have earned enough money to buy a dynamite shadow racer, but God had given him plenty of good things already. And when Christopher was reminded of this, it was time to pass it on to others.